the good thing is we live in the era of the interwebs. So you can just put something online.
Yeah.
I mean, and that is the truth. And you can be anywhere and do that. I mean, first and foremost, I believe the power is in your hand.
Welcome to the Cue the Spotlight podcast. I'm your host, Logan Stacer.
And I'm your other host, Michaela Stacer.
And we have a fantastic guest today. I'm so excited to have Lonita Cook here. Lonita.
Woo!
Yeah, you're the VIP. So
hello.
Tell the people all about all the things you do.
Gosh.
We connected on LinkedIn, and right away I saw the news stuff, but the more I learned, it just the deeper it got. So tell them everything.
Oh gosh. Well, I will say this up front. I don't keep up with my bio like I should. So if I forget anything that I'm doing with anybody, please charge it to my head and not my heart. So I am known for being a film critic. I'm a film, TV, theater, and culture critic. I contribute to KCTV5, Everyday Northwest in Portland, and Hello Iowa in, you guessed it, Iowa.
Wow.
I am also the East Central Kansas field rep for Kansas Creative Arts Industry Commission, which is out of the Kansas Department of Commerce. And what I do there is, as a field rep, I help our arts-based nonprofits, and there are regional reps, become, I guess, resource ready so that they can get funding from the state. And if you meet our requirements for the state, you most likely also meet federal requirements, because some of our funds do come from the NEA, so we have to meet their requirements. And then I also am helping steer the conversation on film development for the state. Nice. That was supposed to be a little bit more robust, and then our governor wrote a bill for a tax incentive, and so it's just kind of taken on a life of its own. And so we're in the process of seeing if we can get a tax incentive for the state of Kansas. And I'm also designing year 2 of the critical writing program for the state. And so, yes.
Wow. And so sometime in there you sleep and eat.
Maybe.
Well, I can't forget. So let me get through this. I am also the president of the Johnson County Arts and Heritage Friends of the Museum Board. I am also on the board of Johnson County Park and Rec Foundation. I am also on the Arts KC Advocacy Committee. I am also on the board of Arts Council of Johnson County Advisory Board. And I think that's it. And if I've missed something, I'm so sorry.
That's all right. Wow. Wow. So how did you sort of, like, was it a snowball effect? Like you started doing one thing and then it kept getting added on, or do you like set your sight on things that you feel like would be a good fit and go after it? Or how'd you end up with this portfolio?
Yeah. So I think it all arises from my desire to be what I call an arts activist. And that is just basically being service centric. The beginning of it for me was I was an actor, a theater actor when I was younger in high school. I studied at American Musical and Dramatic Academy, and it was there that's right. And that's where I learned that I do not want to be an actor.
Okay, good to know. We'll take you off our cast list.
But I definitely love theater, and I wanted to do something, but I had to spend some time figuring that out. And so I did the whole corporate America thing, have a family, blah, 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 blah. And then a friend of mine that I met in college, she continued to pursue the craft, and she started working for the Sundance Institute in Beverly Hills. And she asked me one year if I just wanted to meet her halfway at the Sundance Film Festival. And I was like, sure. had never been to a film festival. I don't think I'd even heard of Sundance at that point. And I went and I loved it. And I absolutely loved it. She, on the other hand, was like, it is cold. I am not going. And I went every year for 13 years as a volunteer for the festival. And in the beginning, it was, I'm a mom. I'm doing all the mom stuff and just like all the things that you go through there. And the Sundance was my adult time. I got to have a glass of wine and everybody called me by my name. If somebody says mama, everybody turns around because all the moms, right? But this was a place where, I got to go dancing and got to, and so at first it was a vacation and a time away. But then what I realized probably around year 4 is that I really cared about what was happening in the environment. The filmmakers, the musicians, everybody who they've collaborated. And I will say this, in Park City, while Sundance is going, Slam Dance is running concurrently in the same town. And both world-renowned festivals, and all of the artisans, creatives, tacticians who have collaborated, they kind of know their dreams are coming true. Yeah. And it's an infectious energy that happens. And I wanted to be a part of that. And then I wanted to see how I could recreate it here. Right. I didn't know anything about our local industry, about film. Did we have film festivals and so how could I get involved? Because I really loved being there when filmmaker dreams came true. Like that was what started it all. And then I came back and I did some research, and then there was, the Kansas City Film Festival. There's Kansas International Film Festival. There's Tallgrass Film Festival, all the cool stuff. And so I started volunteering, and that was, where it began. Yeah.
I'm curious, we're both on, we act, we write. I'm curious, what is it like being in those spaces, sort of just like as an observer and taking it all in, volunteering, I guess really not worrying about the competitive side of it too, because there is that element of like, you're sizing up all these other films or these other actors. What's it like just being there and taking it all in? You
mean like at Sundance, or you mean locally?
Both.
Well, so as a volunteer for Sundance, I have to be very clear. I volunteered in an ancillary capacity, I would say. So I worked in I volunteered in the transportation department, and so we worked with the bus transit. And so what we did, and I'll tell you why, such great strategy. What we did, so all of Hollywood basically converges on Park City during the festival. And so there are tons of people, and a lot of them don't know where they're going, but they're all in a rush. And so they would have some volunteers at bus stops, and they would add additional buses at additional bus stops, because it's a pretty small town. Have you been to Park City? Mm-mm. It's pretty small, but during the festival, it's very congested. Okay. And so you need somebody to say, get on this bus at this time right now, go here, and so that's what I did. And so as a volunteer, for Sundance at the time, they had full-time volunteers, and you could get a full-time badge, and the full-time badge got you access to basically everything. When I first started, I'm going to assume it could get you in some parties, because I was at some parties. And all the screenings, including some press screenings, it was just, and then so you have full-time, you have part-time, you had halftime, and you had sign up. So these are the levels of volunteers that you could do. However, the position, in order to get the full-time badge, you had to work a full-time shift. So
like 8 hours?
Yeah. Mm. However, my position you only had to work 4 hours. And
People
still
aren't getting in buses
Strategy.
all day.
that's right, and still get the full-time badge. And so we would do that, but have more time to fest. But with that, I felt powerful full-time badge. And so I did that for a number of years. And then I worked in a theater, which was great. This is where you get to see that. So like we would stand outside, which is why you only had to do it for 4 hours. And then you would meet the filmmakers, and they're walking down the street and they're talking about their projects, or you're meeting celebrities and all this stuff. And it's just a passerby situation. But in the theaters, they're there for their screenings, their publicists, their managers, everybody's there. And so it's a different vibe, which is really cool. And then I also worked at headquarters. Headquarters is really awesome. That's where your press office is. This is where your donor appreciation office is. This is where your judges are going to be. And so it's just getting a really full view of how a festival is produced. And so for me, that's what it became about, observing the different places. And so I was not at that point, or not for Sundance, where you are submitting films or anything like that. It's the behind the scene production of the festival, which is super cool. And so when I came here home and I said, how do I get involved? I started out as a volunteer, basically doing the same kind of things. I also joined the board of organizations like Casey Wift. It's been rebranded now, but at the time, it's like just learning what is available. And this is, and the reason I bring up Casey Wift is because it was the first place where I
Does
did.
that acronym stand for Women in Film and Television?
Yeah, Kansas City Women in Film and Television. Mm-hmm. But they've been rebranded. I think it's Women in. I actually don't remember. My bad.
I mean, I don't know how you can get much more straightforward than that.
Yeah.
But this is my first experience of being on the other side. When I was on the board, Michelle Davison was the president, and she originated a screenplay contest. And so this is my first time where I'm getting to receive submissions, process submissions, have to find judges, that kind of thing. And so this is where the competition comes in.
Yeah.
And you know, and you like, I don't know how other people feel, but for me, it was like, am I qualified to judge your work? Like kind of thing. And so that was very interesting. And then I joined the board of Kansas International Film Festival. And so this is where I learned to produce both sides, where we're dealing with hospitality. Am I talking too much? I feel like
No.
I'm just...
No, it's cue the spotlight. So we're here to learn from you.
Okay, cool. You just cut me off if I'm going too far down a
No,
rabbit
you're
hole.
good.
But learned about hospitality, learned about development, which is your fundraising, learned about, hosting filmmakers and making sure a festival is produced and so that it's beneficial for the filmmaker. What do filmmakers look for when they attend festivals? What do they need prior to, but then while they're here? And then how that can benefit them once they leave. And so how much media can they get? How many reviews? Like thinking about all of those things is just a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is a lot.
Yeah.
So you were really deep in like the Kansas City Festival world.
Mm-hmm.
So are you still deep in the Kansas City Festival world, or did you kind of transition out?
I would say that I've transitioned a little bit out where, let's just say I transitioned a little bit out.
Yeah.
So all of the people that I've met over the years, I tend to be, I say 95% good at maintaining and cultivating and maintaining relationships. I try to treat everyone well, but I am a learn on the job kind of person. And so I did a lot of, I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I did a lot of, can you show me how to do this? Okay, I don't get that. Can you show me again? And it's like, yo, girl, I ain't got time for that, So I've maintained a lot of those relationships, but what that means is when you meet people and you can access them and they evolve and you're evolving with them, they're in a different place in their career now. And so the ways that we use film festivals may not necessarily be the primary need anymore. Right. So now we're agent.
What do you mean by that?
What I mean is needing to use festivals to be discovered, for validation for your work, to meet other filmmakers and potential collaborators, those sorts of things. Once you've done that, or gotten to a certain point in your own career, then you can start looking at other avenues to continue to elevate. And so a lot of the people that when I first started out who were operating, their primary place of operation was local. Now they're regional or national and some international. And so that is a different experience. And yeah. Am I being clear?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Because we were talking last week about how Kansas City can really be like a great home base, and whether it's film, poetry, theater, like Kansas City has that quality where whatever you do, it's a good place to like be based here and then go elsewhere. So does the festival? Does it like sort of reflect that ethic or like that feeling of hospitality, or is it still like, can people get discovered in Kansas City?
Okay, is this
I was like,
get to the nitty gritty. Hold on, it's a question behind. Yeah. There is a question behind this question. So can people get discovered in Kansas City? I am of the mind that you should definitely head outside of Kansas City for experience. Even if this is your home base, I'm an advocate for exploration. I believe that you live and you learn, and that life and that learning becomes wisdom, and it can become creative wisdom, and then also strategic planning, and only good, and so I think you should definitely experience other markets, other cultures, all of the things. Can you be based in Kansas and have a robust career? Absolutely. Particularly, and I'm speaking in terms of technology, post-pandemic, we all kind of accept the virtual or digital landscape as a way to communicate and a way to connect or stay connected, be connected. And so I would say even more so now, yes. But I still think that there is an importance in having relationships out of those larger markets, out of your LA, New York, Chicago, Atlanta. Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Did that answer the question?
It did answer the question.
And you can ask me a follow-up question about it if you need me to, say something more poignant or more focused.
Well,
for me and him, so
mostly you.
Mostly me. So I wrote like a TV pilot and want to develop a series, but the series.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we took it to a festival outside of Kansas City, in Duluth. And they had like an episodic festival, but then I really wanted to make the show here, but I just didn't know. I mean, I don't really know what I'm trying to ask. What are you trying to ask?
I think what I'm trying to ask is
like, how do you?
Like, we have this robust film thing. Is there like television culture happening here too?
I think that there is always steps toward it. I think that our film production, I think that we are still primarily a commercial production town.
Yep.
And then we have a lot of great independent film. I think that the work that is being done on both the Missouri and Kansas side for tax incentive will kind of resituate the conversation. But I do think that the majority, the majority of our film production is independent. And in terms of episodic or serialized content, there is some here.
Okay.
There's a cool show that's on my watch list. I haven't watched it yet. Please forgive me, but I know it's out there. It's called Daddy's Divas, and it's produced here, and it's been distributed on Amazon Prime. And I don't know. I mean, I know a few of the actors in there. I don't think that I know the filmmakers themselves, but most of the time that he posts, he tags me in a post. So,
trying to get you to review it, trying to get you to watch it. Yeah.
So I'm aware of the project, and it is on my watch list. Because like I said, I do know a lot of the actors. And so something like that being produced here with local talent can happen. And I know a lot of filmmakers who do have relationships with distributors, but if we're talking about kind of the way what we would consider the mainstream and how it functions, we are at the very beginning stages of that, in my estimation.
Yeah, I would say we are too.
For the longest time, I've said that our local television is journalistic. I mean, we have news television and maybe some like entertainment, like magazine shows or lifestyle shows. But in terms of narratives, that's coming.
That makes sense.
That's coming. Yeah.
Yeah, I knew that did Missouri pass their tax incentive? Are they working on it?
Yeah. I should know, I'll be honest with you, exactly where we are. I know that there was I will say this, on both the Missouri and Kansas side, I know that there was some yes and some changes, and then, okay, yes to this, no to that going on. And there are still questions about where we are on both sides of the state line. As of today, but I think we're really close on both sides.
That's cool to hear, though.
Yeah.
I think this is a good time for our first segment of Free Game, where we give our audience free game. If someone is trying to break in Kansas City, where do they start? Like, if they're just like, I like movies, or I want to make stuff, I want to get plugged in, where do they start?
So, the good thing is we live in the era of the interwebs. So you can just put something online. Yeah. I mean, and that is the truth. And you can be anywhere and do that. I mean, first and foremost, I believe the power is in your hand. And you literally with your, I have an iPhone, but whatever phone you have, your cameras are so powerful that you can produce content, whether you're a film critic, you can, a lot of the other critics that I know are influencers who have great followings online, have YouTube pages that, they get connected with the studios because they have access to an audience. And that's really the name of the game, always. What's your audience? And how big is it? And what's your influence over that audience? How much do they trust you? When you show up, how frequently do they show up with you? Like, these are the questions that I think are first and foremost to answer. And you can do that from anywhere, right? Now, definitely make something. Definitely submit to your local festivals. So if you're a filmmaker, do that. I used to say reach out to people in the media and stuff like that when I first started, but that's because I was new. Now that I'm busy, I don't necessarily say that publicly anymore, because people will reach out to you anyways. And honestly, you want to say yes to everybody. At least I want to say yes to everybody. I just don't have the capacity anymore.
Yeah.
So if you know of a critic who is new or a journalist who they are new, I would say get to know them and develop a good relationship with them before you meet them. Okay.
That's a good idea.
Yeah. Because, yeah, just do that.
Okay.
Do that.
Heard.
Yeah, do that. I always say do it before you meet them, because you give them an opportunity to see if you're a good fit. Right. Sometimes I have like teenagers. If you got the gumption to reach out to me and you think I'm all this, and that, and you still had a gumption to reach out to me, I'm probably going to give you the time of day.
Yeah.
When you're a kid, because it takes chutzpah.
Yeah.
Right. And I respect that. I may not be able to give you everything, but I'm going to give you an ear, or, maybe a little bit of advice or a little bit of guidance. Right. So I've got my demographics of folks that can reach out to me, and I'm like, oh, I don't have time for this, but real quick, kind of thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would say reach out to somebody who's in a comparable place in their career as you are in yours. I think a good thing is to develop together. Yeah.
That's really good.
That's good.
Yeah.
So how did you become a film critic?
That's a long story, and you can go other places and hear like the whole story. But like I said, I started out as an actor. I realized I didn't really want to be an actor, but I have a love for my fellow actors, for my fellow creatives. I love art. I grew up watching movies. I was born in the mid 70s. And I think the late 70s into the 80s, like a renaissance in Hollywood. I know some other people might.
There's some good movies in the 80s.
All the good movies.
All the good movies. You heard it here first.
You heard it here first. Every good movie happened in the 80s.
There's no more good movies ever.
No other good movies. No. I think that I always wonder, am I just what's the word I'm looking for? Glorifying that. I don't like that word, but you're romanticizing my own childhood, because there are older movies that I love, and then stuff that has happened outside of the 80s, that like The Matrix, 1999.
Solid.
It's
The Matrix is solid.
That's your best word? Solid. It is revolution.
Well,
The first one, revolutionary.
I didn't watch The Matrix till like what, a couple
like
years
2 years
ago?
ago, yeah.
Really?
Yeah, I had never seen it, and he's like, let's watch The Matrix. And I will say, let me think.
We're not critics.
I feel like the more it went on, it wasn't as good to me.
Interesting. That's very interesting. Well, so I was going to ask, did it feel modern though? Did it feel dated to you?
No. No, because I feel like I don't think I should. Well, I was like, at any point, I feel like I could take a pill and be like, oh, wow, I've been in a simulation this whole time. So, no, I feel like it felt not like, oh, I'm watching something so old.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I guess if in 2023 now, or when we watch in like 2021, if it's like, oh yeah, this could have been made now, that's probably a good thing for a movie made in the 90s.
Yeah. Yeah. And the concept too. I don't feel like it was, I don't know what year they're in, but I hope my brain's not like in a tub.
I know. Yeah. So when it came out, it was like really the technology itself, it was really pushing the industry forward. And then what happened after the movie, all of the people that used the Matrix to discuss religion, to discuss philosophy, at the time we were saying that, I won't say we were saying, because the book is Baudrillard is actually in the movie. So we weren't saying it was actually in the movie, but these conversations about simulation, and these were conversations that were reserved, I think, for a certain select group or maybe even elite group of people.
Yeah.
The Ivory Tower.
Yes. And so a movie like this really blew that conversation open. And then, of course, I love action movies.
Okay.
And so the choreography was amazing. I have been a long time fan of Lawrence Fishburne. He'd been acting since, I think, his first movie. He was 15.
Wow.
And so just seeing him in a role like that, considering some of the roles that he had taken previous to that, it was, I think, an important step in his career. And I'll be specific, like one of my favorite movies when I was younger was this movie called Band of the Hand. And I'm sure, I bet people who are
this is a deep cut.
Yeah. So people who are my age maybe don't even know what Band of the Hen is, but this is back when he was billed as Larry Fishburne,
Oh.
Yeah, and he played a gangster, and this is kind of what it was like for Black actors and Black male actors, the gangster. Or we've had these conversations over and over again, the types of roles, the types of characters that were available to Black actors. And so to see him kind of transition into Morpheus was a huge deal for me as a fan.
So you like action movies?
I like sci-fi. I love romance. I love action. I don't like horror.
No, I don't like horror.
Yeah.
I'm with you there. He does not like action movies.
So I have a strategy for Marvel movies.
Yeah.
I stay awake for Act 1. Act 2, take a little nap. Act 3, I'm back. And I pretty much know what happened.
Yeah.
He feels like they're all the same. So I wanted to hear your opinion. Do you think they're all the same?
Well, I don't know that
I would get our podcast canceled.
Well, I don't know that I would put Marvel in the same category with other action movies.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
I think that the superhero movie is its own thing now.
Okay.
And I think that it's very difficult to have a conversation, particularly right now, because we are talking a lot about having superhero movie fatigue. And I feel fatigued.
Yeah.
When I was coming up, Christopher Reeve was my Superman. Christopher Reeve, right? And an actor like that, he was also the star of a movie, Somewhere in Time. I believe it was called Somewhere in Time. And back then, you could do a superhero movie and still do a romantic drama and still do, you know what I mean?
So the superhero is more of a vehicle than a genre.
Is he the original Superman?
I wouldn't say that he's the original Superman. I will say that was my introduction into Superman.
Okay.
But I know that there was a Batman and Robin on television when I was little. I'm trying to remember the names, but they're not going to come to me. It's the TV show where we get a lot of the comedy because it was very heavy on the pow and and they were in the tights and
Yeah.
Adam West.
Yes, Adam West.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. But Christopher Reeve was my
Yeah.
Superman. And what was I gonna say?
Superhero fatigue.
And this is where, where I learned about the 3D movie. The very first 3D movie I ever saw was Superman in the theater. And so for me, this was a grand, epic experience. I don't find the superhero movies now grand and epic. I think they're just big.
Yeah.
And that's a different thing.
Yeah.
I agree though, because like Thor, Chris Hemsworth isn't really, I think when you think of him, you think Thor. When you think of all of them, it's like you're Spider-Man, you're this, you're that. So that is interesting because I don't really think of movies where they're in others. Are they even in other? I'm sure they are.
I didn't even like Chris Hemsworth. I mean, he's clearly a handsome dude.
Yeah.
And
she loves Chris.
No. They're all the Hemsworth boys, handsome guys, and any of us might be lucky to turn their head. Okay, fine. But I didn't appreciate him as an actor. I'll say this until he was in Rush, I believe is the name of it. It's a Formula One movie. And he plays, it's a two-hander with him and Daniel Bruhl. And Daniel Bruhl has entered the Marvel cinematic universe as some character, but I didn't read comics growing up, so I couldn't tell you, but he's in a Marvel movie. But this role for him was when I first said, I think he is a real actor. It was just a really great vehicle to prove his depth and his eye as an artist. But I think, it's not a popular thing to say, but I actually liked the Ghostbusters remake.
With the women?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes, I did. And so I like seeing him making fun of himself.
That's
also.
Good. Yeah.
But I
forgot he was in that.
Yes, he was in that.
You're like, I did not forget.
So yeah. But I do think that this is why we see what's his name? Who was Captain America? Chris Evans. Yeah, why we would see him abandon that character, because I think after a certain point it started to hold him back.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then you see him break out into Knives Out, something that's meatier, something that has dimension. Yeah, and so now he's in this movie on Apple TV Plus.
Yeah, where
right
that
now.
girl ghosted him.
It's called Ghosted, yeah. With what's her name, Ana de Armas, who played Marilyn Monroe, but she was also in Knives Out, I believe.
Okay, I haven't seen Knives Out.
Yeah, huh?
We are more.
We're TV.
We're
people.
more watch TV people.
Okay.
Yeah.
We like movies, but
Yes. No. I understand.
We're more like TV show people.
I absolutely understand, because people ask me what I think about series all the time, and I'm like, I haven't seen that yet. It's on my list, and it's because as film critics, traditionally, especially when we start joining our professional organizations, we are film critics and we watch movies, and there's a film branch and a TV branch, and you don't necessarily cross over, and that's changing a little bit. But I'm just now watching season 8 of Supernatural.
Oh, I've never seen
watched season 1 of
Supernatural.
Okay.
Yeah,
We like comedy.
We like comedy.
We're comedy writers.
It's
Watchers.
hilarious.
It is hilarious.
It's hilarious, but it's also a lot of
It's very it's
tears.
sci-fi, right?
It's
Or like
paranormal.
Paranormal, yeah.
Okay.
But I will say this, and the reason why I didn't like it when I first saw it, I was like, ugh, who are these dweebs? Like I was like that. But Eric Kripke, he is the creator of Supernatural. It is, I will say it's an open road supernatural procedural. So if you like procedurals, like medical procedurals, cop procedurals, I think you'll like Supernatural, because it's kind of monster of the week, but kind of whodunit
Like
also.
Scooby-Doo.
A lot like Scooby-Doo. Yes.
Okay.
And so it's open road, but they are from Kansas.
Oh.
Yes. So it's the Winchester brothers. They were born in Lawrence, Kansas. And
Is it based on real people?
no.
Oh, the way you're talking about it, I'm like,
Well,
wait,
it's
is this
because
a
I
real?
love them so much.
It's like, this real?
There's people from Kansas fact monsters every week.
I'm like, I have to
I've
move
never been
immediately.
that far west to Kansas, so I don't know.
I'm like, I have to move immediately. What's happening?
Well, and I will say Eric Kripke, if he's, do you guys watch The Boys? Probably not. You do watch The Boys. So he's the creator of The Boys on Amazon Prime.
Okay.
He went to KU, I believe.
Wow.
Yes. And so I started watching it because of the connection to Kansas, but then you just kind of fall in love. They're brothers with, there's a lot of tension and yeah. I recommend.
Wow.
So I want to.
Yeah,
you
go ahead.
had.
Well, I was going to ask if it's hard to turn it off when you watch stuff. Is there like an off switch where it's like, I am not critiquing this right now? Or are you always critiquing?
As a critic, I try to watch movies and do my job there, and then enjoy series. Something like Abbott Elementary, like
We watched that one. Yeah.
oh my gosh, I love it so much.
It's so good.
It's so good. Ghosts. Do you got watch?
I've watched a
watched
couple
that, yeah.
episodes.
I love Ghosts. And so something like, and I watched like the American and the BBC version. Like, yeah,
You're like deep.
I love Ghosts.
She loves Ghosts, all right.
And so I just try to fall into it. But as a creative, I do still try to see how you construct a show, an episode versus a season versus an entire series arc. And so I like, back in the day, you'd have to buy like the box set of the whole series, right, to watch it. But I love being able to get on Netflix and binge a whole thing.
Yeah.
So you can see.
It feels like a movie.
Well, but you can see how it was constructed. So I think when I look at storytelling, I look at it through the lens of construction. And I love being able to see where an episode's theme is, see where one seed is planted here and then it takes root and it sprouts, a new storyline 3 or 4 episodes later,
Yeah.
And so I love being able to look at those sorts of things.
Cool.
Yeah, that's kind of because I was about to say, like, zooming back in on you and your work, how does taking all this high level storytelling, how does that affect like your output? Like, do you have like your own creative practice? Like, you're an author too, right? So
I am.
Yeah. So talk about that, like your own work
Yeah.
and how it's influenced by all that you consume.
Yeah, thank you for that. I will say professionally, it was hard to be a critic because I am naturally a critical person. And so I kind of love analysis anyways, but I didn't want to do it professionally because I didn't want to be critical of people who were doing what I wanted to be doing.
That makes sense.
And then I started realizing that a lot of critics, let me say it this way. I know a lot of critics, and I only know of 2 who are like, I knew when I was 3 that I wanted to be a critic. It was like, really? Most of the critics that I've encountered, whether I know them well or they are a critic, but they're also something else, or they've used criticism as a springboard into something else. I enjoy being a critic because I like to evaluate.
Yeah, I'm the opposite. Every time I see a movie, I'm like, that is the best movie I've ever seen. Good job. Great job for making it. I'm so proud of you.
Yeah, well, I have that too, right?
Okay.
And this is one thing that when I talk to people about being a critic and their responsibility is, I don't think that you are a good critic unless you fully understand the work of the artist. I think the best critics are artists themselves. I think the best critics are life learners. And I think that they understand what they do needs a great deal of responsibility. Because the more renowned you are as a critic, the more your work can actually affect what a filmmaker is able to do. Things like Rotten Tomatoes, where we all get together and we, weigh and put a number, a percentage on their work. I've heard that those numbers.
Do they have like a rubric? Like, what are they looking for? Like,
I don't know. I actually am not sure.
Okay.
I know I like Rotten Tomatoes. And I'll be honest, I like, if I'm gonna go watch something, I'll look at Rotten Tomatoes and see what the critics have said and what the audience has said.
Do you have a rubric?
Do I have a rubric?
Like when you critique stuff, or is it just straight vibes?
Straight vibes.
No. Straight vibes is good, because in the beginning it was straight vibes. Like it was like, how does this make me feel?
Yeah.
Like so a thing that I really love as an artist and as a critic, and I talk about this, is the group mind. And so going to the theater and experiencing something together, like, are we all laughing in the same place? Do we have a collective experience where we are, connected in laughter? Are we connected in tears? Are we, right? Have you done your job to elicit emotion? And so, yeah, a lot of it was straight vibes. But I do now, I also think about more serious things, because when you are producing work in the mainstream, I believe a part of your work is to help condition ideas, at which all storytelling is. This is what theme is, your messaging. But when you are working with massive budgets, there is a lot of responsibility that goes with that. And we, as a viewer, particularly as if we are unresearched, right, we believe your stories. So there's a lot of responsibility that goes into it. And so I also look at how serious you're taking your responsibility, what I think your responsibility is. Because if I'm going to bring my child, or as a critic, I'm going to encourage viewers or readers to bring their children, I want to make sure that you've been responsible.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense. I'm curious your take on, there's a I'm not going to call it a genre, but there's an impulse for people to like lean more into like, this is the message and like, this is the culture, as opposed to like still making quality like work or like value, like, diversity is like becoming like such a buzzword, but balancing doing that work, but also still being critically like a good piece of art. How do you see that playing out?
That's a really interesting question. I was going to ask you guys, what are your favorite shows? Because you both said you're more into, while I process this question.
Yeah, I'll tell you. Do you want me to start?
Yeah.
Well, what are we watching now? So we're watching Mrs. Maisel on Amazon.
Do you love it?
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
We watch Barry on HBO Max.
We just finished Shrinking on
Yeah,
Apple TV.
Oh, that's so
Yes.
good.
That was-
I got to interview Luke Tinney. I love him so much.
Wow.
I did not get to interview anybody else.
That show was so good.
It is so good. Apple TV.
Apple TV's killing. Yeah, Ted Lasso.
Ted
obviously.
Lasso.
Next Level Chef.
Oh, we love cooking shows.
I love cooking shows.
Next Level Chef, Master Chef. We also like creative competitions, like fashion. We like what is that? Next
Making the cut.
Making the cut.
Making the cut.
Fashion.
Next in fashion.
Yes. I watch all these also.
Abbott
Yes.
Elementary.
Yes.
I like Not Dead Yet.
Yes.
I love Jane the Virgin. I don't watch it now, but we loved Jane the Virgin.
Yeah, that was gonna be one of those shows where she was like, "Oh, Logan's not home. I'll watch it." And then there was one day I was like making dinner, and I was like, "What's happening?"
Yeah, we have this thing because like I'll start shows and by myself. I think, oh, Logan wouldn't want to watch this. And then next thing I know, he's hooked and wants to watch it. And then I think, dang, now I have to wait for him
Yes.
to watch
I grew
the
up on
show.
video games, so watching things generally is still kind of new to me.
So are you watching what is this other show on HBO? This Is Us? No, not This Is Us. What is the video game show? The Last
The
of
Last
Us.
of Us.
No.
You didn't watch this?
We
Is
didn't
it The
watch-
Last of Us?
We didn't watch that.
You didn't watch it?
Is it a comedy?
No.
Okay, that's probably why.
But it's a video game show. It's
Okay.
adapted from a video game,
Interesting.
and I don't play video games.
I just played sports video games.
I got you.
Yeah.
I got
So,
you.
Ted Lasso. All
Yeah, I
about
was
it.
gonna say
Soccer.
Ted Lasso.
He loves Ted Lasso.
Blind Spotting. I have some. I've worked with them. When I was in New York, I worked with a lot of the people who are making Blind Spotting now. So
Nice.
shout out to Blind Spotting.
Shout out.
Yeah, I'm trying to think what else we watch.
Ted Lasso is my favorite thing ever.
Yes.
So
Atlanta.
it is my all-time favorite show
Ever?
ever.
Wow.
So the
Wow.
Golden Girls used to be my all-time favorite show. And I grew up watching TV. We watched Mary Hartman. We watched anything and everything. Gosh, all of the stuff. I mean, yeah, my mother was a Trekkie, so I grew
Nice.
up, she was very into Westerns.
Okay.
So the gun smoke was always on.
Okay.
Wow.
And so of all of the wonderful stuff that I grew up on, the Golden Girls was my favorite. It just rose to the top. It is the cream. And then
Ted Lasso.
Ted Lasso replaced it
Wow.
How quickly did Ted Lasso replace it?
immediately.
Wow.
Immediately.
It's so good.
I found it because I love Jason Sudeikis.
Yep.
I fell in love with him as an actor. I think the first thing that I saw was Sleeping with Other People at Sundance. And it was a movie that I was like, what? You know, a group of people, like a lot of people are coming to watch a movie like this, you know? But there was something very quirky about him. I had no idea who he was. I had no idea that he was from here. And so I kind of liked him. I loved Horrible Bosses. And Meghan Markle is in that movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so Horrible Bosses too. And then I fell in love with him in Kodachrome.
I haven't seen
I
that.
haven't seen that.
So it is a movie that is on Netflix, and it co-stars, I believe, Ed Harris, right? Ed Harris, and forgive me, I should know her name, Olsen. She plays the Scarlet Witch.
Oh.
Yeah, is it Elizabeth? Yeah.
Yes.
And I believe those are his co-stars, and it's about an adult son whose father is a photographer. They have a tumultuous relationship, and they drive across country to get film developed because nobody's developing film anymore. And it was just the first serious thing I saw him do. Yeah.
Nice.
And so I was just looking for some Jason Sudeikis stuff to watch.
Yeah.
And I found Ted Lasso. This was
So
before
good.
anybody was talking about it. I had just gotten my iPhone, so I still was on my free Apple
your free
account.
Apple TV, yeah.
and I watched it back to back to back to back. And I've probably watched season 1 100 times. Not joking.
Wow.
And so when I talk about storytelling, Ted Lasso is my go-to.
Wow.
It's very economical, tight storytelling, and nothing is wasted. I don't know nothing about sports, and it's still my favorite thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We also are watching Bel Air right now.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. What do you think?
I like it.
I like it. I like the style and I wasn't really, I didn't like watch a lot of Fresh Prince growing up, so I didn't really have that kind of context going into it. And so just like the good old fashioned teenage drama.
Yeah.
Here for it.
Yeah.
Here for it.
I did grow up on Fresh Prince of Bel Air.
Yeah.
We watched it every week. Back then, you had to wait.
Yeah. No binging.
No binging. You had to wait, and we watched it every week. It was one of those shows that my whole family got together to watch, and so a dramatic remake was a hard sell for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
It was
Have you seen it?
Yes.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I'm glad that it's out there.
That's good.
Yes.
That's good.
It's out there.
Yes. And I will say that I'm very proud of Morgan Cooper, him being from here. I absolutely love that he used some Kansas City artisans like Whitney Manning and Harold Smith. Their work
Whitney Manning's going to be on next week.
Yeah. Oh, here?
Yeah.
Oh, dope.
Yeah.
She's amazing. And so just featuring the work of local talent on that series, it's an incredible thing. Yeah.
So have you processed the original question?
I don't even remember what it was.
Yes.
Talking about like diversity
Yes,
versus
diversity.
equality.
You came back to it. Okay. Ain't no. Get that. Okay. So I am a hard person to ask that question to.
I'm glad I asked it.
And the reason is because I think that the majority of folks, and I could be wrong, and I hope I'm wrong, but I think the majority of folks are Black excellence people, and I am not. And so some of my views on particularly race are not what other people would share. And so I have a fundamental belief that when it comes to the mainstream and American cinema, there is no such thing as Black movies. And maybe Tyler Perry. But it's because I believe that it's not enough to have a Black writer in the room. It's not enough to have Black actors on screen. It's not enough to I think I'm more comfortable when Black money is involved, which is a rarity. And, but then I also am looking at overall culture.
Yeah.
And what I think is beneficial to people who have been traditionally or historically marginalized. This is what the language we're using now, and what it means to be inclusive. I would like for us to make it a mainstream conversation to say included in what and who and what defines that and to what purpose, for what end. And for me, I'm skipping over so much in my mind.
You're good.
I'm
You're
like saying things.
You're like,
and
edit.
Don't say that. Don't say that. Don't say that. But I think have controversial views about race in particular, and then I don't quite understand the feminist perspective as well as I think I should. This was a conversation I was having earlier today. I said, I just want to know what we mean by, women in film and representation, because I grew up on movies like Working Girl and Wildcats, and gosh, let me think of other things. There were a ton of movies where women were the main character, where they had a sense of authority, where they were triumphant. Like, what, you know, what are we really wanting?
Yeah.
Right. And if we already have what we want, then what is the purpose of the conversation? Right. And so I'm just saying, I have controversial thoughts.
You're not alone.
on these things that are not popular, and I'm aware of that. And so I do try very hard to walk a line.
Yeah.
Because I like to be respectful of people who don't share my point of view. And I personally, and when I say Black excellence, you know, when we're thinking about surrendering to the institution, that's what I hear when we say Black excellence. And so I need us to, if I'm wrong, I need us to have a conversation about why I'm wrong, because I've been around for long enough to go, I remember the Cosbys. Okay. This is what I think it is. Okay. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
Okay.
Yeah, that's good. Thank you.
Sure.
Safe space.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, but it's also, you know, I don't like to disparage.
Yeah.
Because we get to things in our own time, and then a lot of people won't get here, and that's okay too.
Yeah.
But I think the grace that I operate with, you know, because I think what I think, and 10 years from now, I might think something else.
Yeah.
Others may not, you know, give the same grace.
So having been in this space now, because I feel like I use poetry as sort of a reference where, like, when I was coming up, I was like, yeah, you know, these poems are going to change the world. And now I'm watching these poetry slams. I was like, yeah, that's what we were talking about 10 years ago too. You know, like, that's just, and so what do you think are the stories that are missing now? Or like, what do you think are the things that...
Am I still on? Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, just turn it a little more so it's, there you go.
Like that? Okay. Okay, I'm just going to hold it then. Can you hear me? Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
You're good. But like, what do you think are the things that maybe should be interrogated a little more that you're not seeing so much in the space?
Well, I say I'm very excited to see Black stories, because I know that there was a good 20 years where we're like, we can do more than talk about this, and this. You know, one of my big complaints earlier in my career is that Black people, Black creatives are the only ones that are mandated to keep it real. Everybody else gets to be imaginative. They get to imagine themselves in the way they would like to see, imagine themselves in worlds that they would like to exist in. We are the only ones that are mandated, okay, to keep it real. And I think this is a function of anti-Blackness, okay? And so, and I'm an Afro optimist. I'll say that. I know.
Amen. There's not enough of them.
And so I definitely am enjoying Black voices in different genres and in different categories.
Did you watch Swarm?
I have not yet.
It's Black voices in a different genre,
Yes.
for sure.
Oh my gosh. I watched the first episode. I haven't watched it again.
Yeah.
You want to hear something crazy?
Lay it on me.
Okay, so I was vegan for a long time.
Yes, I am vegan.
Okay, well, I'm going back to being, I'm kind of flexitarian.
In
Okay.
high stress, chicken is very appealing.
And I think you should be flex.
Okay,
Yes.
but on a day where I chose to be flexitarian, I was eating chicken nuggets, watching Swarm. It made me feel sick to my stomach, and I was like, I can't eat chicken again because Swarm just ruined everything.
So that's your official review. Swarm ruins chicken.
Yes.
Yes. Every time I would think about chicken, I would think about Swarm, and then I think about Swarm, and I think about chicken, and I was like,
So kudos to Donald Glover.
I'm gonna be sick.
Yeah, I have not watched Swarm.
Okay.
I've heard mixed things about it.
I mean, it's
Yeah.
quality.
Yeah.
It's
It
just
was
different. Different for Black people, for
Yeah.
sure.
But also, I
For
don't
sure.
like
Blood and gore.
gore. I don't
Yes.
like horror.
Neither do I, which is, why I'm slow to move on stuff like that is not my genre.
Yeah.
Everybody knows horror is not my genre
Fair.
unless it's vampires, werewolves, or
Is that even horror though?
right.
I feel like that's like fantasy. Like,
Exactly. So, you could have a horror fantasy.
You consider Jordan Peele horror?
I do.
Okay.
I do, but I think, for a long time I was saying Get Out is the only movie that I've ever seen that has been made for Black people,
Interesting.
except for maybe Coming to America.
Fair.
But yeah, for a long time, because I think Get Out is the conversation we need to be having. It's the conversation. Everything else is a distraction,
Interesting.
right? And what I mean by that is I like to separate experience from identity, right? So like I said, I came of age in the 80s, in the late 70s, 80s, and 90s, and born in the mid 70s and into adulthood in the 90s, right? And in that era, I grew up on the emerging gangster rap. So movies like Colors. I mean, I would name a bunch of names, but I'm not, because I know people gonna kill me. Right. But a lot of these movies that place Blackness in the ghetto or in the hood, in gangsta life, in drug life, and it's all kind of folded and tied up in this bow of hip hop, which is like, yo, I remember the birth of hip hop and its sweep across the nation, and it was not this.
Yeah.
And so when I say I don't believe that there is such thing as Black movies or such thing as Black music, it's because the money and the authority and who decides the direction, the design of it,
Yeah.
it has not been us.
Interesting.
It has not been us. And our experience might be and I grew up in hood, and I'm not anti-hood. And I know a lot of boys that didn't make it.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm not saying it ain't real or nothing like that, and I'm not saying I don't have compassion for it. And I'm saying it's experience, but it's not our identity.
Yeah.
And I think that we conflate the two, and that's the problem that I have.
That's powerful.
Yeah.
I'm tearing up.
Yeah, that's-
Yeah. Wow. That's good. That's really good.
And so I just want to be very clear. That is my official answer to your question
okay,
about
yeah.
diversity. About diversity
The
is
experience, not identity.
Yes, yes.
That's powerful.
Yeah.
Well, we still have another regular segment that we do that we
Okay.
talked about before.
Yes.
The do the thing segment.
Yes.
And so, how are you feeling now? Are you leaning one? I feel like we've reviewed a lot of things.
I know. I'm like, she did the thing.
I know before the show that we were talking about a movie that came out today. Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret. Both of you say you have not read the book.
No.
Okay. And so what I was going to do is review a movie officially. I've reviewed it twice already today, so I'm
Okay.
happy to do it a third
Great.
time. So it's based on a book that came out in 1970 by Judy Blume. Judy Blume is a well-known author of young adult work. Controversial young adult work because she deals with maturation. And so Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret is about a preteen who moves from the big city, from New York to New Jersey, where she meets a new group of friends. She starts a new class that has a brand new teacher who's never taught before. And they are concerned with things like their first crush and their developing bodies. And the book has been controversial ever since it came out. And the movie, the adaptation, is the first movie adaptation, releases today. It stars Anna Ryder Fortson. Now, she used to be Cassandra Lang in Ant-Man and the Wasp.
Okay.
But she was replaced in Quantumania. Quantumania. And so here she is headlining. I don't know if we say headlining, starring in her own vehicle, which is really good. And I think actually is a smart move, particularly as we experience superhero movie fatigue.
Yeah.
I think this is a smart move. The most recognizable faces for me were Rachel McAdams. She plays Margaret's mother, and Kathy Bates, who plays her grandmother. Everybody else are narrowly known as of now. Another component is negotiating religious identity. Her father is Jewish. He is an ethnic Jew, and but non-practicing, and her mother is Christian. And so Margaret, she prays, but she doesn't know what she wants to practice as a spiritual person. And her parents have left it up to her to decide when she's grown up. And so this is all a part of the book. And you can imagine in 1970, it being super controversial. The adaptation is great. One thing that I said is this is the first movie that I ever watched where I'm like, oh my gosh, my own life is a period piece. When you have the costumes and it's like, I think I had exactly that dress. And the rotary dial phones and the way that cars used to look, the kinds of cars that I rode in when I was little, or the way the buses used to look, right? So it's very nostalgic, beautifully acted by everybody. There's actress, I don't know her name. She plays a character, Nancy. Nancy is a pivotal character in the story, and the little girl that plays her, Dynamite.
Nice.
Dynamite. I would say if you can, watch it with preteens. I got to see it with preteens. There was a lot of ew, a lot of collective gasps from the audience. And then I was sitting in the row of people who were 45 and up, and we were laughing, side splitting the whole time because of the young girls who were so enwrapped. It's a fun movie. People really relied on the book, particularly young girls, but boys too. And so the big question is, does it live up to our imaginations? And I would say there were two things. There are a couple of things in the book that are very strong that have stayed with me my whole life. I read it when I was in the second grade. And the way that I remember imagining it is obviously a little different. And so you have to keep yourself open, right? Because it's still fun. And then this experience, when you are a young girl, and young boys, but this Margaret is a young girl, and it's about a girl's developing self. You are very excited about growing up, right? and you see yourself, even though you know Margaret is Jewish, and you see yourself in the book. Having it made cinematic, felt a little jarring for me because you see where you're not and where you are actually in the story. One thing that is not in the book that I really appreciate about the movie is that the adult women there's a great distance between where they are with their own bodies and their own experience, obviously, versus where the young girls are. And the older women seem to not have as much compassion as we would want them to have. And so, yeah, I think it's a good movie that will spark a lot of conversations. If you're a parent and of a preteen, it's a good movie to take them to if you want to, start a conversation. And it's controversial though.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, amen. There you go. There's the official review.
Yes.
It made me interested. So
Yeah.
Really?
yeah, I was like,
watch
you
it.
didn't run the movie, but I'm intrigued.
Okay.
It sounds kind of funny, so I'm like, I think maybe I could see it.
Whenever I hear controversial, I don't automatically jump to funny. So
No, yeah.
I was like, oh man, it's preteens. Maybe something.
Yeah, I was like, what's gonna happen to the preteens? Oh gosh, but no, okay, that was cool.
Cool. Well, we also end our shows every week with a rap cap.
A rap cap?
Yes, so I will freestyle, but it's not really a freestyle.
That's
because
amazing.
I jotted some notes throughout our conversation
I'm in love with this.
so that I could make a freestyle about our conversation. Okay.
Great.
Yes. Okay.
Kind of beat you want? Standard.
Just a pretty standard beat so I can get this going. Okay. Today, our guest on the show was Lonita. She got her start out there doing theater. She said that she is an art activist, and on her resume is a really long list. She started at Sundance, a full volunteer, and now oh, I messed up. Oh, dear. Okay, let me run it back. She started at Sundance as a full volunteer, and now she's a film critic doing it all year. Logan asked her, yo, where do I get started? She said it's not for the faint of hearted. You should just get out there and post stuff, and if you start there, that could be enough.
That was really good.
Thank you.
That was so amazing.
So that's my favorite. I got a little tongue-tied.
That's all right. That was good.
That is okay.
Yes,
You're rapping for a critic, so you know.
I know.
It's
That's so cool. And that is a great component of the show. Like, I feel like I'm breaking this. So,
Well, yeah, thank you so much for coming on the show.
it
Thank
has
you.
been a pleasure. You are a delight.
Thanks.
And thank you for listening. And do you feel that I asked enough questions of you as well?
Oh, yeah.
It's not about us.
I always
about you.
love to talk about TV. So any chance to talk about TV,
Amen.
I'm happy.
Well, thank you for tuning in to Cue the Spotlight podcast, and thank you to No Solutions Production Network. There's a lot of N's. No Solutions Production Network.
No Solutions
For making this
Production
happen.
Network.
We'll see
No
you.
Solutions Production Network.
No Solutions Production Network.
No Solutions Production Network.
We out.